Hi, I'm Nancy Reynolds, Stampin' with Nutsy. Thank you for joining me today for a card that I believe my someone special I'm sending it to is my grandson. Well, actually I'm going to send it to both. One card, two kids. They are living in California and I don't get to see them much because I'm up in the Pacific Northwest. Today is overcast, it's cool, and it's a great day for a cup of coffee. So grab your coffee, grab your tea or whatever you're drinking, and I hope you'll enjoy this video. I have been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for 13 years. I went from being someone who had never made a card to going to a couple parties, or workshops as they're called. And now, after 13 years, I have become an avid crafter. Sometimes that can be translated as hoarder. As you can see behind me, I have a couple of stamp sets and supplies. But I'm having a great time with it, and I hope you do too. I am wondering if I could ask you to hit that like button or hit the share button. Facebook is, I'm trying to get this up on my iPad so I can see comments and who's here. So if you'd bear with me for just a second or three, I'm going to get it. I'm sure of it. There it is. There's a bit of a delay, so I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little slow answering your questions. Your patience is greatly appreciated. So what I want to do is show you the card first. It's made with a special someone stamp set. It's a little raccoon. Hi Sue, thanks for joining me. And the paper I'm using is one that I received for free at an event, and it didn't really resonate with me, but because I'm not a golfer, I'm not from a family of golfers, so the golf ones didn't apply to my life. But then I got to looking at the backside, the plaids and the argyles, and I thought, oh, this is a great guy card, and I kind of suffer with those when I'm trying to decide what to make. So that's what we're doing. It's called Country Club Designer Series paper. Coordinating colors are Black Crushed Curry, Garden Green, Night of Navy, Poppy Parade, and Whisper White. We're going to use Night of Navy and Garden Green and Whisper White. And we are using, can you see this one right here? This is the Designer Series paper we're going to use. The front side of it, or is this one? Okay, I am going to flip you down. I'm going to do my best to flip you down without any problems, but please, I appreciate your patience. Let's see, first I turn me upside down. That's a good sign. It's also a good sign that I'm not starting out sideways like I did last week. Let's see. Let me get this lined up. Oh, I could move my coffee cup. It's in the way. I am Stampin' with Nutsy, and the host code for this month, if you'd like to order, is BTNA72CE. I'm going to tighten this down, and we will get started. Let me show you the cardstock we're going to use. Oh, with the delay, I obviously need to wait a second. We're going to have a card base 4 1/4 by 11 inches. We're going to score and fold it at 5 1/2 inches. We have 2 matte layers, one green and one white. They're 4 1/8 inch by 5 3/8 inches. The white one is for the front, or for the inside, the green one's for the front. I also have a piece of embossed Night of Navy that's 3 3/4 inches by 5. This is one of our front layers, and I used a product that I have, very sad to say, is going to be retired. It's the Coastal Weave 3D embossing folder. I absolutely love this. Let's see if I can get this close enough so you can see it. Isn't that gorgeous? I've used it on many cards, and I will be very sad to not have it. I've got a piece of the Designer Series paper for the envelope. It's 2 3/4 inches by 6 inches, and then I will trim off the rest. For the focal piece on the front, we're going to stamp on the white stitched label circle. It's the largest of these stitched circles, and we're using the largest of the scalloped dies for its mat. I have just a little strip. My sentiment is pretty small, so I'm going to stamp it and cut it out. I've got little strips of DSP. They're about 1/4 inch wide for the envelope and on the inside. And then on the front, I'm going to put a piece that's 2.5 inches by 3 inches. So now they're all backwards of what I'm going to need them. And before we do that, before we start stamping and putting things together, what I'd like to do is show you a little tip that I just learned, probably late last week. It's scoring your paper, or making your card base. I don't know about you, but I get a little miffed because as much as I love my trimmer, it scores, it cuts, the blade is amazing, lasts practically forever. It does leave a little edge. And so what I do, when I go to make my card bases, it's 8.5 inches long, so at 4 1/4 inches, I score it. Oh, I'm gonna want that back down here. Then I cut it at 5.5 inches, and I have 2 card bases. What I learned is if you put, let's see, inadvertently snap that out. If you put your score blade first, and then your cutting blade, and then you get a more even edge. Isn't that something? I was quite impressed. Then you can fold it, and you're ready to make 2 cards. So I'm going to put those away, and let's get started. I have already folded my card base. I'm going to work on my green mat, and actually I am putting this on flat, so I'm going to go ahead and assemble these right now. You can use whatever you like, whatever your favorite adhesive is. I happen to like the liquid glue, the multi-purpose glue. I keep it in a little holder upside down so it's always ready to go. I keep a T-pin in it because once in a while I forget to put the lid on and it gets a little dry. And the T-pin will just clear that right up. So a little glue. You don't really need a lot, although the texture of the folder, I put a little bit more on than normal. I center it, well, I close to center it. Generally speaking, if you cut the same difference, length and width, you can center the top and the sides, and it'll be very close. And then I am just going to go ahead and not put this on yet because I want to put the front piece on. It is also flat, so that's because I almost forgot that I want to put some twine on it. I just look and see about where I think I like it. And then I'm going to take this, it's Sahara Sand and Night of Navy, and I'm going to wrap it twice. I'm going to leave myself a tail here to tie it. A longer tail than I would normally use because it is definitely nerve-wracking being on the camera. So there we are. my snips. And I like it to cross over. So we've got one a little higher than the other. And I tuck one of these under just because it makes it easier for me, and I'm just going to do a little tie. Just one little knot. It will hold just fine. Let's see. And it's always good if you actually have your yarn or your twine. This has a real name. I'm just at the moment not thinking about what it is. Twine is really not its name. Okay, I'll hold that down with my finger and then tie my knot over at the side because my circle is pretty big. I'm going to divide those up. Trim these off so they're not really in the way. And now I'm going to glue it down to the card base. If you wanted to, you could pop this, but I'm going to pop my focal image instead. Here we are. Make sure I've got a nice little border around. I tend to like a very narrow border, so I cut them fairly close in size, just 1/8 of an inch, I think. Now for a little stamping. Let's stamp our sentiment. I'm going to use Night of Navy ink, and the sentiment is, "You mean the world to me," which my boys do. I miss them. They are, oh, saying this on camera is hard. I want to say they're 7 and 4. But I could be a year off. They could be older. Okay, ink it up, stamp it down. We'll clean the stamp off later. Love the classic label punch. It's just cute. And some of our smaller sentiments fit so nicely in it. Okay, leaving the ink open was not my best choice. See if I can get this out without. I find that sometimes things just jump out and jump off. So I'll set that aside. And let's do just a little more stamping on the front. I like raccoons. I have raccoons in my backyard. I used to be very concerned about my cat, Tommy, because he would like to be outside in the summer, and his choice of associates was not good. He spent time with the raccoons. I put his food out in the morning, and at night, he would let the raccoons finish it up. And he'd just sit on the deck and watch them, and they had a good relationship, I guess. I was a little concerned. But still, I like raccoons, and the babies are just adorable. This is a 2-step stamp set. I don't know if you can see it. We have one with detail to go on the top, and I'm going to do that in the darker color, the soft suede, and the lighter color I'm going to do in Sahara Sand. And one of the things I like to do is just stamp it to make sure it's all covered. Yes. Because there's nothing worse than going to stamp something and then finding you didn't ink your stamp up well. Although it's pretty easy to tell with these. Okay, here we go. Stamping down. Giving it a second to absorb the ink. And then lifting it straight up. And here's the detail. I've done this in some different colors, I liked this one. Now, I'm sorry if my head's in the way, but with two-step stamping, I need to line up the nose and the eyes and the body, and that's not always the easiest for me. Let's see how I did. Ooh, I like it. Okay, I'm happy. Now I'll close these inks up because I really don't want to make a mess. And in Night of Navy, I'm going to stamp. I put together on my block, I put together 2 stamps. One says sending and the other says love. When I first started putting labels on stamps, I could guarantee you 100% I put them on upside down. It's harder to do that now, but it is not impossible because, as you see, sending is upside down. My friends who came to my workshops always stamped sentiments first to see which way they were going. At least I was consistent. Okay, sending love. It's going right down here. There it is. Because I want to do one right back. I did use my Memento Black because on this card, I used the stamp to fill in the flower. And I thought on the card we're making together, I would use the Stampin' Blends, which I really like Stampin' Blends. So here we are. I'm going to put the stem in his hands. Oh, maybe I'll just stamp that off. Oh, I did do it. Okay. Stem in his hands and the flower. Give it a second. Put the cover on the ink. It's always a good thing to do. And then the one thing about Stampin' Blends you want to be careful of is the Stampin' Blends are alcohol. They go through the paper, and you're going to want a sheet of paper underneath it to absorb anything that goes through. So I'm going to start with my dark, and I'm going to do this pretty quickly. I'm going to do the center, and the makers of the stamps have these little darker lines, and so I'm going to use those as my shading lines. Looks kind of funny, huh? And then I'm going to go over it with the lighter, and that blends it out so that we don't have markers, but we have shading. And I think I meant to say we don't have lines. You know, since these are a little smaller, I'm going to use the other tip. You want to make sure that you get them on completely, the caps, so they don't dry out. There, almost done. It's okay to leave a little bit of white, but I didn't want any there. And if you go outside the line, as I did, we have this lovely color lifter. Someone said it doesn't actually lift the color, it pushes it down through. But whatever it does, although this is a very dark color, it will at least lighten it up. Once it's dried, it's going to be much better. Okay. And I don't know about you, but I think Wink of Stella, and even though it's going to boys, Wink of Stella is just like the most wonderful thing. Mine is a little old and abused, I'm afraid. But I think Mr. Raccoon needs a little sparkle. And so I am just going to brush this over him. Perhaps his feet don't. And I think our flower could use just a little sparkle too. And if you're going to do that, I just like to run it over my paper just to make sure it doesn't have any color on it. We are now ready to put this onto our garden green circle, scallop circle. So here we are. Just line it up, press it down, and this is what I'm going to raise up. I don't know if you've seen it, but we have black dimensionals now, and they are amazing. So, one more, I think. I find it easiest for me just to press down on them to loosen one edge. Then I can take it off. Not necessarily easily, but I can get it off. One more. And then the idea is you take these and you throw them in the garbage before they wind up in your coffee, on the floor, in the dog's fur. I found one down in the bathroom the other day. Okay, here we are, straddling it, kind of just lining it up and putting it down. And there's our card front. Isn't that cute? We are going to do a little more embellishing with it. Maybe we'll do that now since it's right there in front of us. I like to use my Take Your Pick tool. It's got this lovely little end with putty in it to help pick things up. So let's take this one and make it, oh, I guess I didn't need to color that center if I was going to do that. And then maybe a bigger one. Right there. And another small one right there. 3's a nice number. There we are, card front done. The inside's very, very simple. A lot of times I stamp on the inside and I like to have more room taken up, but I'm going to actually want to write something to my grandson, so I'm going to want to write more. So I thought I would use this little 1/4-inch strip. I'll close that out of the way. Oh yes, cover up the putty end so it doesn't dry out. A little glue. I don't know, I kind of like to see a little white edge at the bottom. I don't know why. It makes me happy. So we'll have a little white edge at the bottom. And we'll put in our center. There we are, ready to write. Card, cute. I hope you like it. I'm enjoying it. I have a couple more little pieces of paper because we just don't want an envelope that's bare. I do like when I put the DSP or Designer Series paper on the envelope, I like to use a bit more glue because I want to make sure this is well adhered. I don't want anything happening in the mail because of a loose edge. So I'm going to pick that up, slide it up. That's one reason I also like Tombow, the multi-purpose glue. That gives you just a little bit of wiggle room. Okay. I'm going to take that down. Plenty of pressure. Burnish it on. Turn it inside out, or so you can see what you're cutting, and cut away that excess flap, that Designer Series paper around the flap. Very simple. but I think it has a really nice look afterwards. Okay, and there we are. I think I might keep that strip. I could probably do something with that. And for the front of the envelope, I have a little strip that I had left over. I'm going to leave a border around the edge in the white. Whoops, too much. You really don't need quite that much glue. A little border, top, bottom, maybe a little bigger border. Just move that over. See, again, you can move things around a little bit with the Tombow. Ah, my sentiment, which is right here, almost got away from me. We have little dimensionals in white and black, but since this is going on white, I thought that would be appropriate. I think I'll do 3. Here's another thing that makes it a little easier. Use the pokey end of your Take Your Pick tool. You can just pick them up and put them down very easily. My pokey tool is always in my toolbox. And we'll just put this down right here, hoping it's straight. And there's our card for today. Ready to send to someone special. Let me turn you up. Hold on just a minute. And let me turn myself right side up. I want to thank you very much for coming and stamping with me. I also would love to be your demonstrator if you live in the United States and don't already have one. If you want any of these supplies, especially that Coastal Weave embossing folder, which is on the retiring list now, there's a Shop Now button up above on my blog, on my Facebook page here. You can also find my blog. It's stampinwithnutsy.blogspot.com. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I hope to see you in a week or two. All right, bye-bye.